Ahoy, my friends, Ryder here, and welcome back to another Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis video. Today, as all of you guys have been asking for, I'm going to be doing a quick kind of overview of all the costumes that have come out up until April of this year, as each of us is going to have the opportunity to choose one of those for free. Now, I'm just going to be kind of going through these. I'm not doing like a tier list of these costumes. I think that there's like a couple solid choices. I think that there are good choices for, if you're going for a skin. And then I think a lot of it honestly has to do with each player's individual account. So I think that, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. So I'm going to try and explain my overall thoughts on this, like as simply as possible going into this. So the way I'm going to do this is we're going to jump over here and I'm basically just going to go through each character and overview the costumes. But I will say this at the beginning of this video, guys. I will say that I think that for me, I am going to be choosing Barrett's Electro Armor. This one is super, super, super good. It's the only costume that has come out in the game so far where I have found myself more than once being like, I really wish I'd gotten that costume. It's really good. It's extremely well rounded. Barrett is used more for how little costumes he has, right? He has like four costumes. He's surprisingly versatile. I really like Barrett as a character. And what's nice about this costume, right, is if we go look at the actual specs on it, all right, the Electro Armor has boost HP plus 10 in the first slot, and then Indomitable Soul gives physical and magic defense plus 20%, plus physical and magic attack plus 10%. I mean, this is the best R ability in the entire game, and it's paired with HP. It's just an extremely good costume that I think is going to hold its value for a very long time, right? So Barrett hasn't gotten any Arcanums or anything like that. He's typically in there, as a support character, and he has a lot of different weapons for support, and this just essentially makes his job 10 times easier just having this costume. So for me, this is a 99% chance pick for me. I'm not going to know until I'm there. I will tell you guys my other thought was Kate Sith's party jacket, right? And now this one is way more, up in the air. So I think, you know, between the Electro Armor and Kate Sith's party jacket, I think Barrett's is the best choice, 9 out of 10 times. The thing about Kate Sith is that so many of his weapons are locked behind crit chance. And so this weapon, I believe, increases crit chance. Let's go down and make sure it's not crit damage. If it's crit damage, then it's just throw it away. So let's go down. Let's see here. All right, critical potency Arcanum plus 10 points. Critical potency, yeah. So I'm guessing that's crit chance. So I think that this is a good choice if you happen to have a lot of Kate Sith weapons that are leveled up, right? So I went in, I checked my account yesterday. So I'm gonna show you guys my Kate Sith setup, which is not very good, right? And I literally just did the one pull for the Queen of Megaphone, so I was like, you know what? Maybe I will go with Kate Sith. I like the idea of being able to play a different character since I basically never bring him anywhere. So let's go here. Let's go to Kate Sith. And I'm going to show you why I'm not choosing the party jacket, right? The reason why I'm not choosing the party jacket is because essentially I don't have any of his good weapons up at OB6, right? So the yellow megaphone, which is a great weapon for damage, right? I know some people that have this at OB10. So this would be a great one if I had this like OB7 or above. The flower base is great even at base 5-star. This one would work. But essentially, other than that, I have the gold megaphone OB3. We have so many other weapons that are just low in OB levels. And especially with Kate Sith being more of like an RNG type character, I just feel like, am I really going to be putting these weapons on the wish list? And I think not really, right? So for me, I was kind of up in the air between the party jacket and the Electro Armor, but ultimately I'm leaning towards the Electro Armor. I just think that Barrett will have more viability in my account. But if you happen to be one of those players that has gotten a ton of luck with Kate Sith weapons and you don't have his costume, that could be a game changer for your account for running Kate Sith. So those are the two main costumes that kind of stuck out to me. So I wanted to talk about those first. I would say, those were the most interesting to me. Now, other than that, we have a bunch of different costumes to look at. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is like aesthetics, right? So if you have a lot of costumes, if you're not going for this for like viability and content, you know, and you just want a new skin, I think there's a bunch of different ones. I think that the Murasame battle garb should get a special kind of shout out just because it was the first costume of the game. It's a super sick looking costume for Cloud. I really love it. It's kind of like always going to be nostalgic as that very first costume. So it does have kind of bonus points there. On top of that, it is a lightning Arcanum. And I think that Cloud has a good chance of getting another lightning weapon in the future. It's just going to be hard to say. But other than that, I do like the official festive garb right here. As for aesthetics right there. For Barret, I mean, the Electro armor always looks great. For Tifa, feather style, I think is a really good looking costume. But I wouldn't really choose this other than for how it looks. I just think that Tifa's so rarely would be running something like this. Other than that, Aerith has a good amount of ones right here. I like the Fairy of Snowfall. I like the Prism dress. I really like the Prism dress, actually. That's a great one. Yeah, I think that those two are my favorite, at least aesthetics-wise. For Red 13, this one is limited, so unfortunately we can't take the Hellhound. For Yuffie, honestly, I think that Yuffie has some good costumes. I like the this one right here for Sparkling Skater. But other than that, I think that they've yet to like really like find a perfect costume for her. Kate Sith, yeah, Party Jacket was a good one. For Zack, the holiday suit was something that I missed that I thought I would miss more. But I honestly think that for Zack, I would rarely be using the holiday suit over the Shinra full dress uniform. That buff debuff extension just with Zack's kit, you've got the ceremonial sword Z with the physical attack up. He's got, you know, imperils, he's got a lot of breaks. So I honestly think the Shinra full dress uniform is going to be more used than the holiday suit. So this might be a good choice for you Zack users out there if you have a lot of his good weapons, the Shinra full dress uniform. Other than that, if we go to Sephiroth, by the way, guys, I just want to let you guys know, I do not recommend taking any of the Mastery costumes. I think Masteries are a thing of the past. I will never pull on a Mastery costume ever again. So, you know, I'm glad to have the ones I do, Maritime / Dark Harbinger. But yeah, I highly recommend do not pull for Masteries. They're not going to hold up. So just don't do it. Unless you really love how it looks. If you like how it looks, that's a different thing. But for viability in the game, just look past it. All right, so for Glenn here, nothing really standing out to me there. I really wish that Matt's Aidman's white coat was in this thing. I think he's like just outside the time limit for being something to choose, but this would have been in the top 3 for me. It would have been between this and Barrett's Electro armor for me, but unfortunately, I don't think that this choice is there, which is unfortunate. Now for Lucia, honestly, like aesthetically, the Gothic Bunny looks absolutely amazing. So that would be a good choice right there. There's also the holiday code. I'm going to talk about the Arcanums here in a second, but this is just kind of aesthetics looks right here. So those are my thoughts on like costumes that would be cool to keep just for how they look. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to go through each of the actual, you know, costumes and stuff like that. So like I said, any of the masteries, just skip them. They're not worth it. If you like how it looks, that's one thing. But, you know, if you can choose between a mastery and an arcanum, you're going to take the arcanum every single time, right? Now, all of these arcanums, essentially, I mean, obviously, the closer you get to April, they're going to be slightly better. But costumes are far less power crept than weapons in this game, right? So, that being said, a costume, an Arcanum costume, I think is going to have value for a lot longer, especially if you can pick up like a newer weapon. Now, other than that, I think that the way that I would approach this if I was going to be choosing an Arcanum for this free gear is I would essentially be going into my weapon box and looking at which weapons that I have the most leveled up, right? So for example, like if I had Tifa's Holy Flame gloves, like at OB9, and that was my highest weapon that I had without an Arcanum, I would highly consider taking this Arcanum for her. I think you should be choosing the Arcanum based on the OB level of the weapon that you would be pairing it with, right? They're like a pair. They have to go together. If you only have one or the other, it doesn't really work. So that's how I would go about it. Now, for those of you guys that have multiple versions of this, all right, if you have multiple OB10 weapons, but you're lacking the Arcanum, and you're kind of wondering what to do with it, then I'm going to go through here and kind of give you my base thoughts, right? So here's one that might be interesting. Cloud's Bandaged Coat. This is a healing Arcanum costume. Although, to be honest, I think that Cloud serves such a small little part. I think I've used him in a healing build one time out of all my Ever Crisis videos. So I think that that one's probably an easy skip. Murasame Battle Garb for the nostalgia. Then we can skip Maritime Sailor. Official Festive Guard, if you have the Sky Splitter OB10 and you're missing the Arcanum, could be a definite choice. Would I take it over Barrett's Electro Armor? No, I would not, but it is there. All right, so moving into Barrett right here. I don't recommend the Scrap Armor, especially if you can get the Electro Armor right there. So this is by far Barrett's best in-slot costume. If you have this, you ain't running anything else on him. All right, now for Tifa, Tifa did have a surge of importance when it came to healing, but she has definitely fallen off of that. So the Lifeguard costume, where it was once super valuable, I think has less value. Although I forgot this one in the aesthetics. I love the Lifeguard costume for Tifa. It might be my favorite costume for her still in the game. She just looks so good, right? But for like a healing costume, I think that Matt with his gear voucher costume, so his free costume, is still gonna be a better healer than Tifa with this. So yeah, I can't really recommend going for that. Other than that, Feather Style for how it looks, but I don't think that you would be running it very often. And like I said, if you have a high Holy Flame, I don't know the name of those gloves, I can't remember, the Holy Gloves, right? Then this one might be a good choice, but these are getting a little bit older. Like the closer you get to launch, you know, the more power crept they're going to be, and the more power crept they're going to be coming into this second year of the game, right? Bunny Bustier is definitely a really good one. I really like this costume. I really like this setup. And if you have the bunny gloves at OB10 and happen to have the feathered gloves leveled as well, this can be a really, really good choice. So it's definitely up there. This is one of the top tier Arcanum costumes that I would say. All right, so moving into Aerith. I love the Prism dress for how it looks. I just think that Magic Wind is about to get super power crept in the anniversary. So I'm not sure how much this is going to help. I have the Prism Rod OB10. I have this dress. But we haven't had any, like a lot of the wind content has been physical lately. So they've just been kind of locking her out. So it's hard to see how relevant this is still going to be when we get some new content. We know we're going to get Magic Wind at some point in time in the future. I'm guessing they're going to make it so they're going to try and make this as unusable as possible. That's what they try and do. It doesn't mean that they always succeed, right? A lot of players in this game show that with very little you can do a lot, but it's hard to tell because we haven't been there yet. But for how it looks, it's great, and I'm not mad about the fact that I pulled it. Other than that, we have the Sunny Robe. Don't really recommend that one. It does look good and it is cool, but I just think with Aerith, I'm so rarely ever going to be running it. Then we have the Floral Gown. This is a buff debuff extension and then HP plus 10. This one can be really good if you don't have the Comrade dress. I think the Comrade dress definitely outclasses this in every way, shape, or form. This is definitely Aerith's best in slot, especially for support healing. Other than that, we have the classic Coney, which I believe is on the list. This one's up there with Tifa's, so if you have the Egg Staff highly leveled up, it can definitely be good. The problem is that it's AoE, but I do think it does extra damage to single target. I can't quite remember, but I would check that out. If it's just AoE, it might have less viability, but if it's AoE that, like the Protector's Blade, that will do more damage against a single target when there's only one, then that's definitely going to be super good as well. So yeah, for Aerith, I mean, the Fairy of Snowfall, Ice Arcanum, it looks really cool. Aerith is not often used as a DPS. I mean, she is sometimes, but just not all the time, you know? All right, for Red 13, I've heard people saying that the Canyon Duds might be something to go for, but you got to remember, this is just a debuff duration. It's not buff/debuff duration. So for me, this is exactly what it is in the name. It's a dud. So I don't think that this is worth it for your guys' choice of free gear. Wait for something better for Red 13. Wait for an actual full buff debuff costume, because he's always doing buff and debuff. He's not just limited to one. So you want something that's going to support that play style for Red 13. All right. Other than that, we have Yuffie. If you have the diner tray at OB10, her Sparkling Skater might be a great choice right there. But other than that, I think that maybe the Winter Moogle, but it's hard to see where Yuffie is going as a character. I feel like she's leaning more DPS. So maybe the Winter Moogle is not quite as valuable as it once was. But I do think that there are better choices here than costumes for Yuffie. Other than here, we have Kate Sith. Like I said, for the party jacket, it just depends on your Kate Sith weapons. If you happen to have a bunch of them leveled up, then this could be a really valuable thing to have, as it'll really solidify him in your party. But other than that, I think that it's not worth it. Vincent wasn't around. Zach, let's look over here. So Zach has the Glacier armor. This one's interesting if you have the Pressured Ridge leveled up. Probably my least favorite Zach costume, just how it looks aesthetically. I do like the Black Hound. That one's pretty sick. HP and physical attack is always good, but I don't really use it as much anymore. I would say that I use the Shinra full dress uniform probably more than anything, or if I'm in an Arcanum, I'll use Guardian style or Zinogre armor. Unfortunately, Zach hasn't had much time in the spotlight as a lightning DPS, even right after Monster Hunter dropped, which, you know, is kind of a bummer, not gonna lie. All right, so jumping over to Sephiroth right here. Sephiroth has a ton of costumes, right? I don't think that this one was out on time. Dark Harbinger is a mastery, so I don't recommend it. Celebratory Garb is a mastery. You notice that Sephiroth gets a lot of masteries. This is because Sephiroth is one of those characters that people absolutely love. So they know that people will pull for Sephiroth's mastery just because they love Sephiroth. They know that they can put out a mastery for Wind and then give him an Arcanum for Wind later on, and it doesn't matter if you have the mastery, you're going to pull for the Arcanum. So, you know, look at the trends here, right? But do I think that they are worth it for your free gear? Not at all. Not even a little bit, not even zero a little bit, all right? Edged Wings is definitely a good one. I've used it a lot over the past year. If you have the Edged Wings at OB10, it might be a good choice, but this is a really old one. This is not better than Tifa's bunny costume or Aerith's Easter costume. Those are just going to be better costumes in general, but it will have its use depending on the weapons that you have in hand. Other than that, I don't think there's much else here to choose from, and there isn't, right? Then we have Glenn. Honestly, I think that the Pumpkin Mare is a good costume, but most of the time Glenn is just going to be used for water DPS for the Vanguard style, and that's not a costume that we can choose, unfortunately. As far as I know, these costumes are not choosable. So if they are, if the Limit Break Draw costumes are available, which I doubt they will be, it could be a good choice depending on, you know, the OB level of those weapons, but there's no way that any of you guys have high OB levels on those weapons and not have the costume. So I'm just going to assume that they're not there. All right, jumping over to Matt. I don't think that any of these are worth it. He's not a DPS in any way, shape, or form. He's always been a support/healer. I wish this was on the list, but it's not. And then jumping into Lucia, the only real viable choice here would be the Gothic Bunny. Now, I can't quite remember the stats on that, so let's go down and find it. All right, so let's hear. Gothic Bunny. Buff debuff extension and Flame Blade Rabbit Ears. So this is going to give her, I think, plus 20% to fire resistance and maybe plus 10% to ice resistance, something like that. It's similar to Red 13's Hellhound costume. All right, so let's go back. That one's definitely a good choice for her. I like the buff debuff extension. She has a lot of breaking weapons. So that one's actually not a bad choice at all, especially if you find yourself with a bunch of Lucia weapons leveled up. So yeah, that one's actually kind of up there, I would say, alongside Barrett's. But like I said, guys, I think that the ultimate best choice for anyone that doesn't have it is Barrett's Electro Armor. That is my number one choice. Like I said, there's a couple other secondary options. Kate Sith, depending on weapons you have. Gothic Bunny, based on weapons you have. You know, aesthetic choices based on costumes you like and what they look like. And then choosing based on Arcanums, based on which weapons that you have. But essentially, you just got to go with what what you have. You know, go with what you love, choose the characters. You know, there's got to be a costume out there that you missed getting, and that's the costume you see and you wish that you had. And if that's it, then just go chase that, guys. You're not going to really make a mistake here. um, it's a free costume. You've gotten this far in the game without it, so it's just kind of a bonus on top of that. So I hope that this video kind of gave you guys somewhat of a foundation of understanding of these costumes, how to think about going about it, and ultimately helps you guys choose that costume for the anniversary, which is dropping here in just a couple of days. I am so excited. So we'll just have to see what happens when that happens. If you guys have any more questions, just shoot me a comment in the comments below, I suppose. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis content. I will catch you guys on the next one. Hope you all have a wonderful night. Take care and peace.